Finally, first review today. Thank you everybody that's been waiting patiently. Thanks to everyone that's liked the shorts that I've made so far. Anyone that subbed. I finally got a review for you. This is one I've been carrying for a while, and honestly, there's a lot of history with this guy. With Strider in general with me, I mean, I've gone through really every model that they make. SMF, SnG, I had an old school GB. Didn't get into the custom series really. It's a little out of my price range, although I would love to get one of those Batwing custom SMFs one day. Today I just want to talk about my experience with this SnG Performance. The big reason why I've really preferred the Performance series in the recent years, it's really just come down to being left-handed, really. The production versions of these knives are fantastic. The only thing that's kind of a bummer is that unless you have very deep pockets and a ton of money to buy a actual production left-handed knife, which from what I've seen will run you about $1,500, this is really the way to go. I mean, if you want an awesome Strider, but you're lefty, check out the Performance series. You do have, obviously you can mount the clip on both sides. The SMF Performance, those typically will have like these lines milled into the body. So when you flip the clip, it can look a little weird. It looks unnatural. It definitely looks like it was an afterthought to make it a left-handed knife, which is fine. I mean, really, with how little lefty knives there is in the market for us, especially when you get to the premium and more high-end stuff, you don't have a ton of options. The nice thing about the SnG Performance is you have this smooth body texture on both sides. It's, you know, obviously it looks like, yeah, the clip should not be on the left side. But it works. Like, it looks a lot better than it does on the left-handed, on the SMF Performance models that you can flip the clip on the left hand. For actual specs with this guy, it's about 8 inches overall. This specific one has CPM 20 CV. This is the full flat grind variant. They do have a 3/4 grind version, which is totally fine. If you want something that's maybe like a little chunkier and more robust, although, I mean, in my experience, I don't really think it's necessary. This guy's plenty thick. You know, it does have a finer tip, but it's not fragile by any means. I mean, I've put these, pretty much every Strider I've ever had, through hell. You know, chopping branches and clearing shooting lanes when I go bow hunting, all that stuff. Really, it's going to hold up to anything that you'd reasonably do. I mean, unless you're sitting there, you know, breaking down rocks into smaller rocks, there's really no way to hurt this guy. Specifically on the SnG model, I do tend to prefer the flat grind just because the blade is a little more shallow. And when you rock the 3/4 grinds on these guys in this version, in the SnG series, it gets a little too chunky for how shallow this blade is. The SMF, it's a lot better. I mean, you do get a lot greater cutting performance out of this full flat ground version. You know, on the SnG or the SMF, but specifically on the SnG, I think the full flat grind is significantly better. Like I was saying, you can get away with it more on the SMF series of these knives, but it's still a thick boy. I mean, it's still very chunky. I would say if you're a guy that just carries a knife, you know, nowadays I work in a machine shop, you know, I'm a CNC machinist. I'm not really using my knife that much, to be honest. I open packages and I open some boxes and whatnot. So my days of needing a super thick blade stock knife that's like extremely overbuilt, I mean, this is really about as overbuilt as I'll ever need in my life. This is perfect. I mean, the SnG Performance is a extremely high quality knife. I know there was talks of these full tie ones in recent years being outsourced. not the blades, but I've heard things about the handles. If that matters to you, never was a big deal to me. I could really care less. If anything, I think the quality of Strider has just improved over the years. My cat cannot stay out of my face. Come on, Katie. Thank you for joining the review. Come on, cat. This thing's awesome. I mean, obviously, it's more on the premium high end of knives. They're definitely not cheap, but if you're a knife enthusiast, you're deep into the knife world, you know, if you've done what I've done and you've bought pretty much everything out there from Grimsmo to Conegarius, all that stuff, you're not going to be a stranger. He's just going to be a part of the video now. You're not going to be a stranger to paying a premium for a knife, you know, and honestly, a lot of us are kind of past the price scare of things, especially if you get deep into the hobby like I have. I almost can't even call it a hobby anymore. To be honest, it's more of an addiction. Can't help myself. These things are great. They're well worth it. I mean, if you're okay with spending the money, you know, you start getting to like that $600-700 range. There's so many options, but if you're a Strider guy, especially if you're left-handed, this is a great one to check out. There's a ton of different themes that they have to these guys. This one's stone washed with, I think this is just a black oxide blade. I don't think this is actually a DLC. I could be wrong. Check the Google. They have flamed handles with satin blades. My old man had a really cool SnG Performance. It was like they called it the HC finish. So it was like this heat colored chassis, just absolutely gorgeous with this beautiful belt satin blade. He had the 3/4 grind version. Again, aesthetically, it looks awesome. I just don't think it offers you the same kind of cutting performance that you can get out of these flat ground variants. I do really like big knives, and this is not really what I would consider a big knife. I know everyone has their definition of what they think is a thick knife or a big knife. This guy's 8 inches, but honestly, with the ergos on the Striders, the way they do these things with this huge choil in the front, it feels like, I don't want to say it feels bigger than it is. That's what she said. It's like a little big knife, to be honest. I mean, there's so many knives that are in this size range that just feel small. Any of the Strider knives, like for the longest time, I loved the SMFs just because of the size. You know, 9-inch knife, you get a 4-inch blade, a little less cutting edge, obviously, because they do these huge finger choils on these things. But the SnG has been great. I've been carrying this guy for about a month now. You know, I've given him a chance in the past, but this Performance series specifically, I've been carrying for about 30 days. And dude, it does everything I need it to do. It carries really nicely. You know, it can be considered a little thick to some, but really, I mean, man, this thing feels awesome in the hand. The cutting performance is phenomenal. It gives you, you know, a thick-ish blade stock that's, I mean, it's just a super robust knife. The tip comes down to a pretty fine point. So, you know, if you're just, honestly, like I am nowadays, if you're just like popping boxes open and whatnot, it's going to do everything you need it to do. CPM 20 CV, we're all very familiar. Fantastic steel. Can be a little tougher to sharpen, but the beauty in it is that you really don't need to sharpen it very often. I mean, a little stropping goes a long ways. You know, I've carried this thing for a month. I've cut cardboard. I've done a few other miscellaneous tasks around the house and at work. I haven't had to touch the blade. I mean, especially with the way that Strider grinds their knives from the factory, you get such a good factory edge. Their heat treat is phenomenal. Yeah, man, I can't say enough good things about this. It really is just a fantastic knife. And again, it's kind of cost prohibitive. If you can afford it, if you're looking at a knife in this price range, if you're looking at a knives, you know, from that $500 to $700 range, this is a great knife to buy. Strider has a fantastic warranty. It'll do everything you need it to do. It's robust. This is a knife that you can buy and it'll last you forever. There's nothing you can do to hurt this outside of chipping rocks with it. I really don't see how you could hurt this thing. But yeah, if you guys have any recommendations of things I could check out in the future, let me know. Again, this is the most expensive knife I own. I'm definitely not chasing a bunch of knives this expensive. It really is a stretch to buy something like this. My curiosity got the best of me. I had to try it out. So, and I'm happy I did. I was able to give you guys a little feedback on it, let you know if I think it's worth it. If you're in that price range, I think it's worth checking out. If not, there's plenty of other knives out there that are gonna do everything you need them to do and then some. I'd love suggestions on things I could look at in the future. Thanks for watching.